In today's video, I'm going to show you how to paint this whale step by step in Procreate using ink and watercolor brushes. If you're interested, please keep on watching. Hello and welcome to Color with Kendi. Today I'm going to paint this whale and we are going to do this step by step. All of the materials that you'll need for this are available in the description and the pinned comment. I'm using my ink and watercolor set for this, and I'm also using the paper canvas that comes with it. And there is a sketch available for free, which also has the color palette on it. So check out the pinned comment and the description. Let's begin. Okay, so the first step is to import your sketch into the paper canvas. And you can do this by going to the Rent icon, which is the Actions menu, and tapping on Insert a Photo, or Insert a File if you actually imported it as a file. Once you've imported the whale, then what you want to do is go to the Layers menu. And what we're going to do is we're going to reduce the opacity of this whale so it's very, very faint and we can paint over it. But because our color palette is on the same layer, we need to cut that out first. So let's zoom in, go to the selection tool, make sure you are on freehand and add is selected, and then just lasso around it without touching the whale. And then 3-finger swipe down, cut and paste. Now your color palette is in a different layer. And we can go to the layer with the whale. And then we can tap on N and reduce the opacity. So now it's very faint and we can easily paint over it without it getting in the way. So the first step we're going to do is the inking. I like to start out with inking first and then doing the colors. It is totally up to you. Some people prefer to do the colors first and then the inking. Either way works, but I'm going to ink first. So I'm going to use this dark color here, which is not quite black, but it's still quite dark. I'm going to make sure that I have an inking brush selected. I'm going to select Rough Inker B from my set. You can select any of the inkers, it's totally your choice. The choice of inker will change up how your illustration looks, but there's really no wrong or right, it's your artistic preference. Then what I'm going to do is go to the Layers menu and tap on plus, and we are going to paint in another layer on top. That way we're not affecting the sketch underneath. Okay, so what we're going to do is just ink this. You can add as much detail as you want or leave it quite simple. And I'm going to use heavy pressure and light pressure to create sort of a variation. That's what I love about this brush, is depending on how much pressure you apply, you will get a slightly different result. And I kind of like that rather than having a line that's the same thickness across. So change up your pressure when you use this brush. Okay, let's get into it. So I always like to change up the angle when I am drawing. It's just easier for my hand to move the canvas. If I don't do that, it's really hard. Because if I kept my canvas this way, then I would have to move my hand into weird angles. It's just easier to zoom in and out and change up the angles, and it's a lot easier for me to draw. And we're not trying to be perfect here because we want to go with that hand done look. So if you make any mistakes, try to keep them in. It just makes it a little bit more interesting. Now the eye, I'm going to keep it cute like this, but if you want, you can add a line on top. It kind of makes it a little bit different, but I want to keep him cute, so I'm going to keep the eye as simple as possible. And I'm also going to give him a little cheek. You don't have to, I wanted to because I like to make my things look cute. And then we're gonna do a few circly shapes, not quite full circles, just to indicate there's a little bit of roughness. And now you can decide how many lines you want to add here. You can keep it really simple, or you can add quite a few lines. I'm going to keep it relatively simple. I'm just going to kind of follow what I have in the sketch, which is not too many lines. There are a few. It's totally up to you. So you be the judge. You are the artist. You can decide what you want this to look like. I like that. It's simple, not too much going on, and then we can focus on painting. Okay, so that is done. Not sure, I don't know where those spots came from. I have no idea. I'm just going to leave them there. Okay, so we are done with the inking. Now let's move on to painting. Okay, so now we're ready to paint. So we're going to do this in another layer. So go to your layers panel, tap on plus, and then this layer here, let's drag it below our inked layer. So grab it. Sometimes you have to do it twice, and then drag it below that inking layer. If you want to rename it, I generally don't, but you can rename it to ink. So that's where we inked. Now we're going to color. So I'm going to rename this to color. But we're going to color on multiple layers, so we may need to rename this color 1, color 2. Totally up to you if you want to do the naming. I generally don't. Okay, so we are going to start out with this portion of the whale. And we are going to paint it in with this color here. So grab it by pressing and holding, and that will invoke the color selection. And we're going to go with textured watercolor. That's the brush. And we're going to start to fill in with, I'm going to tell you what size this is, size 20. So this is a preset size, and we're going to start to fill this in. And the thing to keep in mind with this brush is that at lighter colors, it has a very faint watercolor effect. You will see a lot more at a darker shade. So if I selected, let's say, a much darker shade, you would see a lot more of the texture. But with the lighter colors, you don't see much. So just keep that in mind. And when you are painting with this brush, if you want to avoid overlap like that, don't lift your pencil up. Paint the entire shape without lifting your pencil. So as you can see, we are getting some watercolor, very faint watercolor texture. This is a very light wash, so we're not seeing much. Now, what I wanted to mention is that there's already a paper texture going on. But if you want to make your paper texture more intense, you can go to the paper overlay, go to paper texture, and tap on CB. And what this will open up is your opacity. And let's just increase our opacity. And by doing so, you're going to see your paper texture a lot more. So I'm going to close that now. That was just a little bit of a side thing about the paper texture. I want a lot of texture on this because this whale has a lot of texture. So now, if you may notice, you see a lot more of the paper texture. Okay, so let's continue painting the rest of this whale. Oh, I'm on the wrong layer. So let's go back to that color layer. I'm going to zoom out just a touch. And I'm going to go back to painting. I'm trying not to lift my pencil, but if it starts to get a little uncomfortable, I will lift the pencil. No big deal. You can always smudge out any overlap, but I'm trying my best not to lift the pencil while I paint in the whale. And if you want, you can leave in some white spots too, like I left. It's up to you. And then I'm going to go down here, and I'm trying not to overlap too much. You see I'm getting very close to that edge. And then I'm going to paint. Okay, I'm going to leave this one for later. So now you can see there's already a very faint watercolor effect. As I said, with a lighter color, you'll see less of that. Okay, our base layer is done, and now it's time to start adding some interesting effects using a clipping mask. So I'll show you why I use clipping masks. Now let's say I wanted to add some effects. I'm going to do this in another layer. And I'm going to select the washy background brush. And I'm going to select this color here, quite saturated. And let's say I wanted to add some effects like this here. And I'm going to smudge it out eventually. But as you see, when I use this brush, I'm going outside the whale and I would have to come in and clean it up. And I don't really want to do that. When you're using Procreate, the faster way to add color to an existing base layer is to convert the layer where you're adding the extra color into a clipping mask. Tap on it and tap on clipping mask. So what's happened is all of that color I added in that second layer on top is now only remaining within the bounds of the layer underneath. So this is a great way to add a little bit more color and not worry about going outside the bounds. Now, you may notice that the color that I had selected was quite saturated. This is quite light. If you're happy with this, then you can keep it at this level, but I'm not happy with this. I want this to be more vibrant, more punchy. So what's happening is, because I have a transparent watercolor layer underneath, and I'm adding color as a clipping mask on top of a transparent layer, because of that, this is also a bit transparent. It's not as punchy. So what I need to do is change all of the pixels here that are transparent into white pixels. And then you'll get a lot punchier color at the top. So I'm going to show you how you do this. So take that layer, that base layer where we colored our whale, swipe to the left, duplicate it, then turn it off. Go to the bottom layer, and now we're going to duplicate this a bunch of times. And merge it, duplicate, and merge it. You see this is getting darker and darker. Now it's no longer transparent, but the problem now is we have no watercolor effect. It's actually pretty flat. That's not what we want. So what we're going to do is we're going to convert this to white. So in order to do that, with two fingers, swipe to the left. What did I do? I turned it off by accident. Keep it turned on. Swipe to the left and you will see these little checkerboard boxes. This is alpha lock. And then we are going to go to our color menu and we're going to select white by double tapping at the 10 o'clock position. Then go back to your layers menu, tap on it, and fill the layer. Now I might be wondering, why did I do alpha lock? If I tapped on fill layer without doing that, the entire layer would be filled with white. That's not what we want. We want that whale to turn white, not the entire layer. So that's why we did the alpha lock. So you see alpha lock is turned on. Now go to fill layer. Now it's all white. You can turn off the alpha lock now by swiping with two fingers, and that's off. Okay, so now is a true test. Let's turn on that color layer, and our clipping mask is also on. Let's zoom in. And now, as I said, this is very transparent because this layer was transparent. Now we're going to merge these two layers together. So what's essentially going to happen is all of the transparent layers in this pixel are going to vanish. They're going to become non-transparent. And lo and behold, this becomes a lot more punchy. So if you want that punchy color whenever you're using watercolor brushes and you're using clipping masks, this is the way to do it. So now we have punchy color. And I like this, but I need to smudge it out. So I'm going to go to my smudge tool. I'm on the ink and color set, and I'm going to make sure I have selected Kendi Smudger. And I'm going to start to smudge it out. I actually think I'm on the wrong layer. Let's go to this layer. Yes, the clipping mask layer. And then we're going to start to smudge it. And you can change the size of the smudger. The size of the smudger does matter quite a bit because you'll get a slightly different effect. And You can leave some areas that are a little bit darker, and you can leave some hard edges if you'd like. This is totally up to you, how you want to smudge it. So I'm going to do that. And I do want to add a little bit of color here too. I'll go back to the brush menu. I'm on washy background, and I'm going to select this darker color here. I'm just going to tap. Depending on how much pressure you apply with the washy background brush, you will get slightly different effects. So play around with your pressure. Go back to your smudge tool and smudge it out. Okay, I'm happy with that, but I do want to add some more fun effects to this. So we are going to go back to our layer panel, and we're going to tap on plus again and create another clipping mask, because we want whatever we're putting in this layer to still show up on that whale shape underneath. Tap on it, make it a clipping mask. Now I'm going to use, go to the brushes, I'm going to use Dual Color Magic C. Tap on the brush, and this brush is a dual color brush, which means it uses 2 different colors. So I'm going to open up my color menu, and I'm going to make sure that I have 2 colors selected. So I already have a pretty dark color here, and I'm happy with that, but I want my second color, which is the color here, to be a white. And make sure you're on disc mode, because if you're not, it will look a bit different. So I'm going to go to a very pale color, not quite white, but a very, very pale blue, and that is my second color. Okay, so we've set up the brush. Now I need to show you how to use this brush. It's going to be a little bit difficult to explain while we're doing it in clipping mask mode, so I'm going to show you on a separate layer. You don't need to do this with me, but if you want to, you can. So go into your layers panel and tap and create another layer. This is just for testing purposes. I'm going to show you how this brush works. So when you use this brush, depending on how much pressure you applied, you're going to get slightly different results. So at light pressure, this is very light pressure, you see I'm getting very, very pale blue. Remember that pale blue that we selected? I'm seeing that. Now I'm not lifting my pencil, so don't lift your pencil, and then start to press a little harder. Do you see what's happening? You're getting interesting effects. Keep changing your pressure, but keep moving. Don't stop moving, and you will get different results. So this is the cool thing about this brush. Depending on how much you press, you're going to see more of one color or less of one color. And if you keep moving, the effects will keep changing until you get something that you like, right? So play around with this brush so you can understand how it works. And then when you're ready, let's go back to our layers panel and tap on that clipping mask layer. So now what we're going to do is we're basically going to paint over this entire area, and we're going to start with light pressure, then we're going to change up our pressure and then release the brush, and we're going to get a really cool effect. So let's do this. So I'm not lifting my pencil, I'm going in with light pressure. Now, start changing up the pressure, but keep moving. And when you're ready, you get a really interesting effect. So I'm quite happy with that. If you're not happy with the effect that you got, try this again. Each time is going to be different. So I'm going to show you again, just so you know that it's actually going to be different each time. I think that's the fun thing with this brush. Each time you use it, and depending on the colors you use, you get different effects, which is really, really fun. I'm actually pretty happy with this, but what's happened is by using this brush, I've lost some of that texture I had in the previous clipping mask. No problem, we're going to change the blend mode. So go to that layer and tap on N. And let's actually zoom out a little bit first. Tap on N, and then let's try out different blend modes. So now I'm seeing a little bit of that layer that we had earlier. So depending on the blend mode, ooh, very interesting. You may find a blend mode that you really like. Every blend mode will give a slightly different effect. And you can pick the one that you like the most. Ooh, some of these are kind of cool. I think, let's see, That's actually pretty interesting too. I think I kind of like the color dodge. Was that the one? I can't remember which one I liked. That's normal. I am finding with normal, I'm not seeing those hard edges. Linear burn. So pick the blend mode that you like, and I'm quite happy with this. I really like this. So I think we're done with this part of the whale. Now, if you want your speckles here to be a little sharper, I think they're quite sharp, but if you do want them to be sharper, there's a little trick. Go to the adjustments panel and tap on Sharpen. I want to show you this. And use your brush, put it on the screen, and start to move it. And what's happening is you're changing the threshold. Go back, you can move it forward. You see, ooh, it's getting sharper. So I kind of like it here at 58. I think this is a bit too sharp, but it's up to you. Whatever works for you. Well, 67. So that's pretty cool. I'm really, really happy with this. Now, we will start to color the rest of the whale. So tap on plus, create another layer. I want to do the cheeks because I think it's really cute. So I'm going to select this color and I'm going to go in with the textured watercolor brush and quickly do the cheeks. And if you'll notice, we still kind of see our original sketch layer. We don't need that. So let's go and turn that off. There we go. And now I'm going to first of all paint this area. And I'm going to go in with this color, let's say. And I'll do this on another layer. And I want to add a little bit of a shadow here, so I'll go in with this color here and just paint that in and smudge it out just a touch. I'm going to make the smudger slightly smaller, and there we go. I'm happy with that. And now it's time to start painting this area of the whale. I'm going to do this in another layer and make sure that I'm on the textured watercolor brush. And I am going to select this gray. And I'm just going to go in and paint this. It's a very faint gray. If you want it to be slightly darker, you can definitely do that. But I'm quite happy with this color. Paint that in. Okay. Now it's time to start to add a little bit more visual interest to that gray. So I'm going to do this in another layer, tap on plus. Do you see why I don't name layers? It's just a lot of naming. And then I'm going to use the clipping mask option. But we're not going to do what we did earlier, which was to make the transparent layers non-transparent. I don't think I need to do that for this step, but if you want to, you can. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with a much darker gray now. And I'm going to go to the washy background brush. I'm going to zoom in and then start to add some darkness. And I'm also going to add a little bit of darker color that's a little bit more blue. And you can add whatever color you want. It's totally up to you. And now I'm going to soften some of these hard edges with the smudger. But as I said, I like to leave some of them. I don't soften everything. I'm going to make the smudger slightly bigger. The size of the smudger truly matters. If you use the smudger at a very large size, everything will get smudged. So don't do that. And use light pressure and just go slowly, because you want to retain some of that interesting watercolor effect. And I'm thinking, should I add a little bit more color? Actually, I'm quite happy with that. I want to keep this simple. I don't want to add too much detail to the bottom. So now I'm quite happy with that. And what I want to do is add some speckles and splatters around. And I'm going to do that in another layer. So go to the layers panel and add another layer. And I'm going to do this in this color here. Select the color. Then go to your brushes menu and tap on ink splatter. And the ink splatter brush, what you're going to do is if you use light pressure, you get splatters like this. But if you use heavy pressure, you get splatters like this. So play around and vary up your pressure and create splatters wherever you want them. So I think that's good. I don't want to get carried away with the splatters. I'm quite happy with that. And let's just turn off the colors here and have a look. At this point, you could say you're done, or you can keep adding a little bit more detail. It's totally up to you. I do want to remove some of these white areas. I think it's a little bit too much white for me. So I'm going to go back to the original layer where I had the bottom layer of the color. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with my smudge tool, make it really tiny, and then start to smudge that out. I don't think I like it. But it's up to you. You may actually like it. It's your personal preference. I'm going to smudge all of that out. But I'm going to leave those two. And I'm also going to smudge this out a little. Okay, I'm really happy with that. So I think this is done. You can definitely add more detail if you'd like, add a little bit more color variation if you'd like. You can do that by adding more clipping mask. So as an example, let's say I wanted to add a little bit more color variation. I can add another clipping mask on top of the whale. And let's say I wanted to go in with the washy background brush again. And I can go in with a blue that's slightly more towards the green side. And I can add in some more color variation if I'd like. And then smudge it out. So it's up to you. You can keep going and add more details, more color, and make this more interesting. It's really up to you, and you can decide when you want to stop, but I'm going to stop here. I'm quite happy with this, and that's it for today. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below, and I will try to answer them. And if you are interested in getting the set, you can find the link in the description as well as the pinned comment. And now before we go, I just wanted to zoom in and show you the textures of this. Pretty cool. Now, if you want the paper texture to show up a little bit more, you can go into your layers panel, go straight to the top where we had paper overlay, go to that paper texture, swipe to the left and duplicate it. Let's close this. And by duplicating it, everything became a little bit more vibrant, a little bit darker, and you see more of the paper texture. So it's totally up to you if you want to go a little bit darker. So yeah, that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye!